This is Jaimini Bhagwati. Today is Saturday, 7th of October 2023. I am attending this literary festival in Ooty, which has been going on for several years now. This is the first time I've come here. I've been delighted with all the administrative arrangements as also the substantive arrangements in terms of the various sessions. I've attended several of the sessions and I've become better educated about several subjects. For instance, today morning, there was a session on history and the study of history, and there were two history professors, and the moderator was excellent too. So I'm sure that many participants at this literary festival have learned a lot, irrespective of how learned they themselves are. So I think this kind of a festival, people should support to the extent that they can support financially, they should support financially. But most importantly, they should come and attend the sessions because they will enrich themselves in terms of their understanding and also in terms of spreading the word about books, because the festival is about books, the festival is about writing, and what is happening in today's world of instant gratification and particularly instant news. People tend to look at their phones and feel they are well educated by reading the 59 WhatsApp messages that they have got since the morning. So I would submit that this festival serves a very useful purpose of reminding people that they must read books. Now, a word about the session which I moderated in the afternoon today. It was about India's prime ministers. I had some very famous names among the authors who were there with me. There was Debashish, who has written a book about VP Singh. There was Shugata, who has written a book about Deva Gowda. And then there was Vinay Sitapati, who's written a book called Half Lion about Narasimha Rao. And he's also written a book called Jugalbandi about Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Mr. Lal Krishna Advani. So I think people who read their books, and I would humbly submit that my book may also be of use to people. It's called The Promise of India, How Prime Ministers Nehru to Modi Shaped the Nation. So I spoke a little bit about the economic contents of that book, in the sense of economic contents and in the sense of what has happened to the Indian economy since independence and what happened before that. Um, my sense is that, as I mentioned earlier about books, is to also decide what you are going to read, because uh, the number of books out there are such that it is impossible to read everything. So I will encourage people to figure out what really interests them, because if something really interests you, you're going to read a lot about it. And with those words, I thank the organizers of this festival once again and wish them all the very best for future years. Well, a similar question was asked of me at the release of my book by Shyam Saran. He's a former foreign secretary and a very good personal friend. He was my boss at one stage, and he asked me a similar question. So, about India and its future. And I said, well, I'm an optimist. So, I wouldn't get up from my bed if I felt that the future of India is dark or even gray. I think people who organize the festival here today, there are many of them. Some of them do not have an outlet in terms of not being literate enough to write books or high placed enough to make their voices heard on radio and television. There's a huge silent majority. And this country has been around in some shape or form, not in the political form that it has today. That only happened in 1947, for 10,000 years, perhaps. There I agree with some people who talk about how ancient this country is. And the people of this country have a great sense of tolerance and acceptance. So, this feeling today that some people are very intolerant and they will lead their actions will lead to a situation where the country will break up, or if not break up, it will do very poorly. I think all this is a passing phase. And if you permit me, I will relate a story of Morarji Desai. He was asked by an American correspondent that what if in 19, as you know, Morarji Desai became prime minister in 77 after the emergency. And he was asked by an American journalist that if in 71, if the Chinese had attacked you from the north, like they did in 62, they might have captured Assam and that part of the northeast because it's connected with the rest of India with the chicken's neck. So Morarji Desai is reputed to have said, and so what? So he said, no, but then the Chinese army might have gradually occupied Bihar. He says, okay, then what would have happened? He says, you tell me. So journalists, then they would have occupied UP. Okay, then what would have happened? Then they would have come to Delhi and unseated your government. He said, it couldn't be my government because I was not in power in 71. Okay, then Indira Gandhi's government would have been unseated and the Chinese would have captured Delhi and India would again become a colony. Morarji Desai looked at the sky, looked at the journalist, and with a wry smile said, over the next 500 years, we would have pushed the Chinese back and occupied Beijing. Oh, wow. He's just making fun of the journalists with his hypothetical statements and also saying, we have been around for 10,000 years. We may be pushed a little bit here, there, now and then, but ultimately we will prevail. I totally agree with you that it would be a disastrous thing if the central government were to try to impose, based on the latest census, as and when it happens, some amount of information is already available on the higher populations of UP, Bihar, basically the northern Hindi-speaking states where population growth rates have been faster because their state domestic product per capita is also lower, their education levels are lower, so family sizes seem to be inversely proportional to education and wealth. So you're absolutely right. So I think no sensible government in Delhi and no sensible prime minister would try to reduce even one seat out of the 540 plus seats that we have in Lok Sabha for southern states. If we have to do something, then we have to figure out ways by which we try to help the northern states financially, but not in terms of changing the number of seats for southern states through a future delimitation exercise. That, I think, would be politically fraught with a lot of danger for our country. So sensible people will hopefully not do it. I myself will try and write about it. I don't know what else I can do about it. I've already written about it in some newspaper and other articles, but it's not just the delimitation, it's also the Finance Commission. Every 5 years, the Finance Commission gives an allocation of resources between the various states and the center, and it's under the Constitution, it has to be formed and it gives its awards. The Finance Commission is also required to look at population as a way of distributing resources. There again, I think the Finance Commission would be well advised not to try and provide resources to northern states which somehow discriminate against the southern states. You have to figure out some ways, and I won't get into that right now, as to how they can be helped financially. For what, to begin with, I think UP needs to be broken up into 2 or 3 states, but we're not going to get into those details. There are other ways of dealing with what could lead to a sense of discrimination in the South, whether it's the delimitation or the awards of future finance commissions.